Morning. This morning I was over at Ben's house, and me and Ben and Guy got into a discussion about persecution and what I see coming to America, and I just wanted to share some of this stuff briefly with you. Reading from Matthew chapter 5, verse 11 says, "Blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account." Persecution is coming to America. Our culture is changing so rapidly and becoming so hostile to Christianity that the time is going to come very, very soon when persecution is here. And looking at it historically, that's how it's often happened. Typically, persecution is not a gradual thing. Rather, it is something that comes upon you suddenly. There's another phrase that Jesus liked to use. And what I'm here to warn you about is that you need to be ready. In America, we often have as we often do, we have a romantic view of persecution. We picture persecution in sort of the Middle Eastern sense of, somebody pointing an AK-47 at your head and telling you to deny Jesus, and then you're sort of faced with this cataclysmic decision, of everything's coming to a head, and now it's time to decide life or death. Tell the truth or lie, or be bold or be a coward. But that is not what most of the persecution in history has looked like, and that is most certainly not what the persecution coming to America is going to look like. The persecution coming to America is what Jesus says here in 5:11. People are going to revile us. They're going to utter all kinds of evil falsely against us. And what the persecution is going to look like is it's going to be on things like the issue of homosexuality. The real church, the one that's left, that actually takes a biblical stand on this, is going to be pushed out to the fringes of society, and we're going to be labeled the most hateful, bigoted people on the planet. And not by liberal politicians, not by sociologists. We're going to be labeled that by a majority of the church, quote-unquote church, that has abandoned what God says about the issue and has done what is right in their own eyes. And what's going to happen is they're going to tell the entire world, and they're going to scream it loudly, that we're the most hateful, bigoted people on the planet, and that we refuse to embrace the real gospel, which is love and tolerance. And we're going to be labeled the most hateful people in the world, and it's only going to be a matter of time before that type of thinking becomes a crime. It's happened over and over and over again all through society. And another issue, and I see this one coming, is those that biblically discipline their children are going to be labeled child abusers. They are. And there's some real child abusers out there that do it in the name of Christianity. Don't misunderstand me. But those who biblically, godly discipline their children are going to be labeled child abusers. And what's going to happen is it's only going to be a matter of time before somebody says the state needs to step in and do something. Now, are you ready for that? Are you ready to have the state come in and take your children away because you are obeying God? And are you ready for your name to show up in the Chronicle or the News Tribune or the Times or whatever, and have the word child abuser appear next to your name? You see, most of the persecution that's happened to people, when we look back through the history of time, and most of the martyrs who died for Jesus, we look back and say they died for their faith in Jesus Christ, and that is true. But understand that when that happened, that was not what the public saw. They died as child molesters, as child abusers, as political revolutionaries, as enemies of the state. Their persecutors who killed them often would revile them and make up all kinds of false accusations about them, just exactly like Jesus says in Matthew 5:11. So understand that the persecution that's coming is going to be labeled as hateful, abusive, bigoted people that have bought into a ruse and believed the lie, and you're stupid, and you're going to be pushed out to the fringes of society, and every good reputation that you ever have is going to be lost. that's the persecution that's coming to America. You see, the persecution that's coming to the real church, those who are going to live by the Bible and follow Jesus Christ, are the persecution that's coming to them is a loss of reputation. It's being an outcast in society, and that suffering, that kind of suffering, is not noble. There will be nothing noble about your suffering.